How did a simple envelope on my kitchen counter turn into the moment I lost my husband, my house, and almost my child in one day? What if every time you joked that your man was worse than your ex, he stayed silent, took notes, and then answered you with divorce papers and a list of everything he wanted? Why did I think I could control the story while he built a legal case in the background? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Isola, and I always knew I could have done better than the life I ended up with. People do not like when I say that, so most of the time I only say it in softer ways. I say I settled for safety. I say I chose stability over passion. But what I mean is simple. I married Ethan, but Luca always stayed in my head. I still think that is normal. A woman does not just forget the man who made her feel like fireworks. That morning, Ethan stood in our small kitchen, packing our daughter's lunch. He moved so slowly and carefully, like a nurse in a hospital. He checked the apple slices, the sandwich, the little note he always put inside. He asked me if I wanted coffee. I said I did. He asked if I wanted sugar. I said he already knew how I liked it. I rolled my eyes and told him that at least Luca never had to ask. Luca always remembered everything, even the way I fidgeted with my straw when I was nervous. I said it with a laugh, like a small joke, because that makes things safe. Ethan went quiet. His shoulders stiffened, but his face stayed calm. He said he did not like when I brought up Luca in our kitchen. I told him he was too sensitive, that it was just a memory, and that grown adults should be able to talk about their past. I told him other men would feel proud if their wife had high-value exes because it meant she had options and still chose them. I said he should take it as a compliment. In my head, I believed that. If he could not handle it, how is that my fault? Maya came in dragging her backpack. Ethan bent down and helped her with her shoes. He asked if she was excited for Grandma Patricia's birthday dinner that night. She said she wanted cake. I watched them and felt this strange mix of love and boredom. Ethan was a good father. I never denied that. That was part of the problem. He was too good, too steady. It made me feel old. It made me feel like my real life had ended at 24, and everything after that was just laundry and packed lunches. At work, I sat in my open-plan office, staring at my computer. I work in client support for a small insurance firm, which is just a nice way to say I answer annoying emails all day. My coworker Carla came over and asked if Ethan was picking me up for dinner, or if we would meet at the restaurant. I told her he was probably already there in his boring engineer shirt, early as always, because he did not know how to be late or fun. I said my ex, Luca, was never on time, but always worth the wait. Carla laughed. She said Luca sounded like trouble. That made me feel bright for a moment, like the main character instead of someone's tired wife. Later, on my break, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. There were pictures of Luca and me from years ago. Beach trips, nights out, messy hair, stupid faces. The energy in those photos made my chest hurt. Ethan and I had photos too, of course. Weddings, family trips, Maya's first steps. But they were all so neat, so proper. I still tell myself there is a difference between love and happiness. With Ethan, I had love. With Luca, I had happiness. Maybe that is unfair, but it is how it feels. Each time I thought of Luca, I felt a little more annoyed at Ethan. It is funny how that works. You look at what you had, and suddenly, what you have looks smaller. Ethan texted me in the afternoon and asked if I could leave on time, so we would not be late for the dinner. I told him my job was demanding, and that if he wanted a stay-at-home wife, he should have said so. I wrote that I was doing my best, and he should be more grateful. He apologized. He always apologized. That was his way of keeping the peace. It only made me respect him less. The restaurant that night was one of those family places with long tables and loud lights, the kind of place where everyone orders too much food and children run between chairs. Ethan's parents, Patricia and Gerald, sat near the middle. My mom, Elaine, and my sister Lena were on the other side. Maya sat between Ethan and me, swinging her legs. I felt restless. I wore a dress that I knew looked good in photos. Lena had already promised to take pictures for her Instagram. During the main course, someone asked how Ethan and I met. I could have given the simple answer. I could have said we met at a friend's party, that he was kind, that he called the next day. But simple answers are boring. So I said that when I met Ethan, I was still in love with someone else. I said I had this wild, passionate ex named Luca who broke my heart, and that after him, I finally decided to choose a safe option. I smiled when I said safe option to make it sound like a joke. People laughed. They thought I was just being funny and honest. Ethan looked at his plate. Patricia's lips pressed together, just a little. My mom laughed and said she told me to pick the man who would stay, not the man who would leave. Lena leaned closer and asked for more details about Luca. I told them Luca had more energy, more romance, more everything, but that Ethan could fix a leaking sink and file our taxes. I said I chose the one who could build a future, not just a memory. I said that made me mature. In my mind, the joke worked because I stayed with Ethan. If I really wanted Luca, I would have gone back, right? At some point, Lena grabbed my phone and took a selfie of the two of us. She asked Ethan to move his chair so the lighting was better. While he shifted, she snapped a short video of me talking. Later, she would post it with a caption about choosing the safe guy after the crazy ex. At the table, everyone just laughed. Gerald tried to change the subject to sports. Patricia asked Maya about school. Ethan asked if I wanted more water. I said I was fine. Inside, I felt like the only real person in the room, like everyone else was too scared to tell the truth about marriage. On the way home, Ethan drove in silence. Maya fell asleep in the back seat. He finally asked if I had to talk about Luca so much, and if I realized how it made him feel. I told him he was being dramatic, that people with real problems did not cry about jokes. I said it was not my fault if he was insecure. I told him other husbands would be happy to have a wife that other men still wanted. He did not answer. He just nodded and kept his eyes on the road. When we got home, I carried Maya to bed and tucked her in. Ethan stood in the doorway. He said he loved us and wanted things to be better. I told him love was not the same as excitement and that I was tired. I brushed past him and went to the bathroom. While I washed my face, I checked my phone. There, on the screen, was a new notification on Lena's story, a short clip of me at the restaurant, laughing as I called Ethan the safe choice after a real love with my ex. Below it, another notification glowed, from a name I had not seen in months. It was from Luca. The message from Luca sat on my screen like a small flame. He wrote that he could not believe I still talked about him, that the video my sister posted was crazy and kind of hot. He put a laughing emoji and a little fire. My chest tightened in a way Ethan never caused. It felt like old times, like I was 22 again, and nothing mattered but how I felt in that moment. I knew I should ignore it. A married woman is supposed to ignore messages from the ex who once broke her heart. But the thing is, I am not just any married woman. I told myself I am different, more honest, more in touch with my feelings. So I wrote back. I said Lena always posted too much, that people were making a big deal out of nothing. I added that Ethan did not understand my sense of humor, and that he was the safe option after Luca. I wrote it as a joke, but I also knew Luca would read between the lines. He replied almost at once. He said Ethan sounded boring and that he always knew I would end up with a man like that, because I was too much for him. He asked if I was happy. My hands shook a little. I told him I was fine, and that being a wife and mother was not as fun as our old nights, but that at least the bills were paid. I used a shrug emoji, like it did not matter. He said that if I ever wanted to remember what real passion felt like, I should come by the gym where he worked now. I read that line 3 times. The next weekend, Lena invited us to a rooftop bar with some friends. She said we needed to get out, and that it would be cute to have couples energy on her feed. Ethan agreed, because he always agreed to social things if I asked. He thought it would make me happy. That was his mistake. He thought my happiness was something he could give with effort. He did not understand that my happiness came from feeling desired, chased, chosen, like with Luca. The rooftop bar was crowded, full of music and lights and people taking photos with the skyline behind them. I wore a tight dress and high heels. Ethan wore a button-down shirt and his usual careful expression. Lena and our friends were already at a table, laughing, drinks in hand. When they saw us, they cheered. A friend asked where the famous Luca was because they had seen the video. I felt a rush of power. Even when he was not there, Luca was still the center of the story. We sat down, and drinks kept coming. People asked me how long I had been with Ethan, and I told our meeting story in the same playful way as at the restaurant. I stressed how wild Luca had been, how safe Ethan was now. I said Ethan was like a parent, and Luca like a firework. I said I was too intense for Ethan sometimes. Every time I said something like that, our friends laughed, and Ethan's face turned a little more blank. I told myself it was just teasing, like in a sitcom. Wives tease their husbands all the time. I wondered why he could not see that. At one point, Marcus, one of Ethan's co-workers, came over with a drink. He said he had not known I was so funny. I took that as a compliment. He looked at Ethan in a strange way, though, like he felt sorry for him. Ethan tried to change the subject to work things, but the others were more interested in the stories about Luca. Lena filmed a short clip of me saying, "I chose the safe guy after I broke my heart on the wild one," and everyone shouted. I noticed Ethan's jaw move like he was chewing something bitter. He did not argue. He never argued in public. On the way home, Ethan drove in silence again. I felt annoyed, as if he had ruined my good mood by being so stiff. I told him the night had been fun. He said he was glad I enjoyed myself. His voice was flat. He asked if I had to talk about Luca so much. I said the others asked. He asked if I could leave the past in the past. I said I did leave it, that is why I married him, and he should be grateful. In my head I thought, if he cannot handle a few jokes, how would he ever handle real problems? The next week at work, Luca messaged me to say he had seen the clips. Someone had sent them to him. He said it was wild that I still talked about him that way, that clearly I was not over what we had. I felt caught but also excited. I wrote that I was just being dramatic for the camera, but yes, he had been important to me. He told me I should come to the gym for a free training session. Said he could help me get my old body back. That stung and flattered me at the same time. I told him maybe I would. I waited 2 days, and then told Ethan I wanted to start working out for my health. I said I might try a new gym near the center. He asked which one. I said it did not matter, and that he did not need to know every detail of my schedule. I called him controlling before he had even finished his sentence. He backed off and said he just wanted to help with pickup times for Maya. I told him he always made everything about him, when all I wanted was one thing for myself. When I arrived at the gym, Luca stood at the counter, larger and more defined than I remembered. He hugged me like we were old friends. He said I looked good, but he could tell I was stressed in the wrong places. I laughed, even though it was a rude thing to say. The session was full of small touches, jokes, old stories. He reminded me of nights we had spent together, of stupid fights that turned into kisses, of times we did not care about tomorrow. I felt young again. I felt like someone wanted me, not just needed me for laundry and childcare. After the workout, he walked me to my car in the parking lot. It was dim and quiet. He leaned on the door and said he could not stop thinking about me, still talking about him in front of my husband. He said that meant something. I told him I was married now, that things were complicated. He said marriage was just paper, but what we had was real feeling. I knew I should step back. Instead, I stayed there, close to him. When he kissed me, I let him. I told myself it was just a small thing, a moment, not real cheating. I told myself Ethan would never know, and even if he did, he had made me feel unwanted first. Driving home, my heart pounded. I kept checking my face in the mirror, fixing my hair. I rehearsed lines in my head. I would say the workout ran long. I would say the traffic was bad. When I walked in, Ethan was at the table helping Maya with her homework. He asked how the gym was. I said it was fine, and that he should be happy I was taking care of myself. He said he was glad, but there was a look in his eyes I did not like. Too steady, too clear. Later, when I went to the kitchen for water, I saw the calendar on the fridge. There was a new repeating note in neat writing, meeting personal on 3 days the next week. I asked what it was. He said it was nothing, just something he needed to handle. I laughed and told him he was being dramatic, that he should focus more on being fun at home instead of inventing problems. He just nodded and went to the hallway. I heard a drawer close very softly, like something had been put away and locked. On Monday morning, the office felt brighter than my own home. The open-plan space was full of noise, keyboards clicking, phones ringing. I liked that. It made me feel like I was part of something bigger, not just a wife who washed dishes and picked up toys. At my desk, Carla rolled her chair over and asked how my weekend was. I smiled and said it was intense. She asked if Ethan finally relaxed and took me somewhere fun. I laughed and said he would never be that kind of husband. I told her he took me to a family dinner and then acted wounded because I made a few jokes about my ex. She asked if that was the Luca from the video. I realized then that she had seen Lena's post too. Carla said the clip was all over our friends' stories, that people at the office thought it was savage, how I called Ethan the safe guy after my true love. She meant it as praise. I liked how savage sounded. I said someone had to be honest about how marriage really feels. I told her most wives pretend they are happy with their first choice when they are not. She nodded, impressed, and said I was brave. At lunch, I sat with 2 co-workers by the window. They asked if Ethan ever got mad about the jokes. I told them he shut down and acted like the victim. I said he was so sensitive that I could not even mention Luca without him making a face. I did not mention that I had gone to see Luca at the gym. That part I kept for myself. It felt special, like a secret prize. During the afternoon, a new email popped up on my screen from the school about pickup times. I ignored it at first. I was busy scrolling through Luca's profile on my phone. He had posted a new video from the gym, shirt tight, smile bright. The comments were full of hearts and fire emojis. I wrote a small comment about his crazy energy and quickly deleted it 3 minutes later when I remembered my last name showed under my picture. Even so, the small rush stayed. Around 3, Ethan texted me asking if I could pick up Maya from school that day. He had to stay late at work, he said. I sighed. I did not want to fight about it, so I wrote back that I could, but he owed me for it. I meant it as a joke, but I also meant it. I always felt like I gave more than everyone saw. When I feel that way, I look for something to balance it, and these days, that something was Luca. The school parking lot at pickup time was a mess of cars and parents. I parked crooked and checked my phone while I waited. There was a short message from Luca, just a line. Thinking about you. Simple, dangerous. I smiled to myself. Some other mom probably saw me smiling at my screen and thought I was reading a work email. The truth was better. When Maya came out, Ethan's car pulled into the lot at the same time. He got out and waved at her. She ran to him first, then back to me. It annoyed me that he was there when he said he would be late. He asked why I had not answered his last text. I said I was busy. He asked if we could talk about a regular schedule for pickups, so Maya did not get confused. He said her teacher had asked who should be the main contact. He spoke in a calm, careful tone, but I heard something else under it, like a plan. That scared me for a second, so I pushed it away. I told him he was making drama out of nothing, that he just wanted to control my time. I said he was trying to take Maya from me by acting like he was the more reliable parent. He looked tired and said that was not what he meant, but I did not listen. I took Maya's hand and walked her to the car. I could feel other parents looking at us. In my mind, I told myself they were on my side. That night, after Maya went to bed, Ethan came into our bedroom with a quiet, serious look. He asked if we could talk about money. I groaned and asked if he really wanted to have a finance meeting at 9 at night. He said he had noticed some strange charges on our joint card, and he just wanted to understand them. He mentioned the hotel charge from 2 weekends ago and the extra rideshare bills around the times I said I was with friends. My heart knocked once, hard. I forced my face to stay relaxed. I told him he was acting like a spy, and that it was creepy. I said I was allowed to go out and enjoy myself, and he did not need a full report. I said one hotel charge did not mean anything. Maybe there was a mistake or a glitch. I accused him of not trusting me after all these years. I asked how I was supposed to feel safe with a man who checked every line on a statement. He apologized again, said he just felt something was off, and wanted to make sure we were okay. He asked if he could sit with me and go through the last 3 months of statements together. That made my skin crawl. I said I was exhausted, that if he wanted to spend his nights looking at numbers instead of his wife, that was his choice, but I would not join him. I went to the bathroom and shut the door a little harder than needed. My reflection in the mirror looked angry and alive. I texted Luca that Ethan was being paranoid and that I hated feeling trapped. Luca wrote back that jealous husbands always look for proof and that I should be careful. When I came out, Ethan was gone from the bedroom. I checked the living room, the kitchen. No sign. The light under the guest room door glowed. I pushed the door open without knocking. He sat at the small desk, laptop open, papers spread out. The joint statements were there, along with what looked like bank screenshots. He had a spreadsheet open on his screen. He had put dates in one column and a short note next to each big charge in another. He looked up when I came in. I asked if he was serious about this. He said he was just organizing our finances because things felt unstable. His tone was even. It bothered me more than if he had shouted. I said this was unhealthy, that he was making up a problem to feel like a victim. He replied that he did not want to fight, and if I did not want to help, he would handle it on his own. There was a small digital recorder next to his elbow. When I glanced at it, the red light turned off with a soft beep, like it had just stopped. He closed the laptop and stood up. He said we could talk another time when we were both calmer. I snapped that I was calm, that he was the one acting like the world was ending. He walked past me toward the door. As he left, he slipped something into the hallway cabinet. Later, when he went to bed, I opened the cabinet and saw a folder marked Household and another plain one under it. When I lifted the first folder, I saw a small USB taped underneath, labeled with a date. I stared at that tiny thing. For a second, a cold wave ran through me. Then I told myself I was being ridiculous. Men say they are going to leave all the time and never do. Ethan needed me. Without me, he would be just some quiet engineer with no story. I shut the cabinet, went back to our room, and slid into bed beside him. He lay on his back, eyes closed. I turned my back to him and picked up my phone. There was a new notification on the screen. Luca had sent a photo from the gym, sweat on his forehead, smile lazy. The message under it said, "Remember when this was yours?" I looked at Ethan's still face in the dark and then at the glowing phone. I chose, again, to answer Luca. Sunday lunch at Patricia and Gerald's house always felt like a test. The table was long, the food heavy, the air full of old rules. Patricia liked things neat and quiet. I never really fit into that picture, but I tried just enough so no one could say I did not. We arrived with a cake from a store, not homemade. Patricia smiled and said it looked nice, but I could see the small disappointment in her eyes. Ethan pretended not to notice. He took Maya's hand and brought her to the backyard to show her the flowers. I went straight to the kitchen with my mom and Lena. Elaine asked how things were at home. I told her Ethan was acting strange, checking bank statements, staring at his laptop at night. I said he was making a big deal out of nothing and acting like a victim. She shook her head and said men these days were too sensitive. Lena asked if he had said anything about the video from the rooftop bar. I said he did, that he had feelings about it. We laughed. I told them I was tired of carrying all the emotional weight, while he just stood there and looked sad. When we sat down to eat, the conversation started soft. Gerald asked Ethan about his projects. Ethan explained something about a bridge or a building, using simple words for the rest of us. I watched him talk and felt that mix again: respect, boredom, irritation. He was stable, yes. He was also predictable in a way that made me feel like I was stuck in a loop. Patricia turned to me and asked about my job. I said it was fine, that I dealt with angry clients and clueless co-workers, but at least someone appreciated my brain. Lena added that lots of people online thought I was funny, that my stories always got comments. Gerald asked what kind of stories. Lena smiled and pulled out her phone. My stomach tightened, but I didn't stop her. She played a short clip, the one from the rooftop. Me, in my dress, laughing, saying I chose the safe guy after my real love broke my heart. Patricia's face froze. Ethan kept his eyes on his plate. Elaine chuckled and said I had always been dramatic. Lena thought it was hilarious. I decided to lean in instead of backing down. I said it was just the truth, that everyone acts like their first love was perfect, but then they marry someone else. I said I was just brave enough to admit it. I joked that Luca was fire and Ethan was a solid table, necessary but not exciting. I thought if I said it bold enough, no one could hurt me with it later. Patricia set her fork down. She asked very quietly if I understood how disrespectful it was to talk about another man that way, in front of my husband and child. Her voice shook a little. She did not shout. Somehow that made it worse. I felt cornered, so I did what I always do when I feel cornered. I attacked first. I said Ethan knew who I was when he married me, that I had never hidden my past. I told her maybe if he was more present or passionate, I wouldn't even think about Luca. I said it was not my fault if the past felt stronger than the present sometimes. Patricia looked at Ethan and asked if there was something going on we should know about. I hated that she went to him instead of me. Ethan shook his head. He said he did not want a scene, that we could talk later. That made me even more angry. It sounded like he was the reasonable one and I was the problem. So I made sure everyone saw it differently. I said Ethan had been secretive lately, with his locked drawer and his personal meetings. I hinted that maybe he had his own secrets, that I was not the only one with a past. Elaine gasped softly. Lena's eyes went wide. Patricia frowned and asked me straight if I was saying Ethan was cheating. I shrugged and said I did not know what he was doing, but he certainly was not acting normal. Gerald cleared his throat and told us this was not the place for that kind of talk. He asked me if I had any proof, before I threw around words like that. That word, proof, hit a nerve. I had proof of nothing. Ethan, on the other hand, was building proof of everything. I think some part of me knew that, and that is why I pushed so hard to paint him as suspicious before he could do the same to me. Patricia looked from me to Ethan again, and then asked, very directly, if I was still in contact with Luca. The table went quiet. I felt heat rise to my face. For a second, I almost told the truth. Then I laughed and said I could not believe she would accuse me of that, after everything I had done for this family. I said she always took her son's side and never saw how he ignored my needs. I let my voice shake a little, like I might cry. It worked. Elaine reached over and rubbed my arm, saying everyone needed to calm down. Maya sat there with her fork in the air, looking from one adult to another. Ethan noticed and stood up. He said lunch was good, but he thought it was time to go. He said he would take Maya to the park for a bit. I asked why he was leaving when the conversation was not finished. He said he did not want to argue in front of our daughter. That made him look noble. I hated that. I told him walking away was just another way to control the story. He didn't respond. He just thanked his parents for the meal, helped Maya with her jacket, and left. After a few minutes, I also left because I did not want to sit there and be studied like a bug. I drove straight to the park where I knew Ethan would go. I told myself we needed to finish the talk, that he could not just walk away and make himself look good. At the park, Maya was on the swings, while Ethan pushed her gently. It was a normal, peaceful scene. It annoyed me. I walked up and told him we needed to talk now. He said we could talk later at home, and that we should just focus on Maya right now. I said it was funny he suddenly cared about what was good for Maya, when he did not care about how his cold attitude made our whole home tense. He let the swing slow down and stepped aside. Maya ran to the slide. I followed him a few steps away, but still in view of the playground. I started telling him I regretted marrying him before I was done with my real love, that I had settled too soon, that any other man would have fought harder for me. I said he never fought for me, never made grand gestures, never chased me. I said Luca would have. My voice got louder without me meaning to. I saw a group of teens nearby, phones in their hands, but did not care. I told Ethan I deserved more than one man could give, that I was too much for him, that he should just admit he was not enough. I thought if I said it first, he could not destroy me by thinking it himself. Ethan listened, face pale but calm. When I finally stopped to breathe, he just said that we should not talk this way in front of our daughter, that this was not fair to her. He said he heard me, he understood how I felt, and he would make decisions based on that. The way he said decisions made something cold slide down my spine. He walked back to the swings and called Maya. I stood there, trying to think of something sharper to say, but the words felt dull all of a sudden. On the way home, I checked my phone. A notification came in from an unknown email address. The subject line started with my last name, and some words about family options and next steps. I told myself it was a mistake, that it meant nothing. I deleted the notification without opening it. The night before the school event, I barely slept. It was not guilt, it was energy, the kind that comes when you feel like something is about to shift and you want it to go your way. Ethan lay next to me, breathing slow, like nothing was wrong. I watched the dark ceiling and thought about how unfair it was that he could sleep while I carried all the feelings. The next morning, the school hall smelled like dust and cheap coffee. Parents sat on metal chairs. Children ran around in costumes. Maya's class was doing a small performance. She wore a paper crown she had made herself. Ethan ironed her shirt before we left, like he always did. He cared about every small detail. I used to think that was sweet. Now it just reminded me of how careful and closed he was with his emotions. At the community hall, Lena and my mom were already there, sitting with a couple of my friends from the rooftop group. Patricia and Gerald sat on the other side of the room. Ethan waved to them and they waved back, but there was a weight in the air. I felt it and pushed it away. I did not come here to feel guilty. I came here to shine. During the show, Ethan focused on Maya like she was the only person in the room. He filmed her, clapped loud, smiled every time she looked our way. I watched them and thought how strange it was that he could be a good father and still such a disappointment as a husband. People always act like those two things are the same, but they are not. After the children sang and did their little dance, everyone moved to a side area with tables and snacks. Some parents recognized me from Lena's stories and came over. One mom said she had seen that Safe vs. Wild video and thought it was hilarious. She asked if it was really true that I had loved someone else more than my husband. I laughed and said something like, "Once you go fire, you never forget it. even if you marry a firefighter with a steady paycheck. They laughed. Laughter is my favorite shield. I could feel Ethan behind me, holding Maya's coat. I did not turn around. Another parent asked how Ethan felt about being called the safe one. I said he knew his role, and that not everyone got to be the love story. Some people were just the stable chapter after the chaos. I said it in a light tone, but I meant it. Lena filmed again, of course. She liked to capture real moments, which means messy ones that make people comment. She asked me to tell the story of my love life in one sentence for her followers. I said, I had the crazy ex, I married the safe husband, and now I'm wondering if I stopped the party too soon. People around us shouted and clapped. Someone whistled. It felt like a little stage, and I was the star. I noticed some parents look away, though, like they did not know if they should be laughing. Patricia stood near the coffee table, face pale. Gerald put a hand on her shoulder. Ethan did not say anything. He just kept Maya close, helped her get a juice box, and stayed a few steps away from my little circle. His silence annoyed me. It made him look like the victim again, and I knew some people would fall for that. On the way out of the hall, one dad joked to Ethan that he must be very secure to listen to all that. Ethan smiled a tight smile and said something short that I could not hear. I cut in and said he was used to my honesty, that he knew I could have done better but chose him anyway. The dad laughed, but his eyes slid to Ethan's face, and I saw something like pity there. In the car, the air felt thick. Maya chattered in the back about her performance. Ethan told her she did great, that he was proud of her. He did not speak to me. When we got home, Maya ran to her room to play. I tossed my bag on the sofa and kicked off my shoes. Ethan closed the front door and stood there for a moment, as if he was gathering words. He came into the living room and asked if we could talk. His voice was calm, too calm. I told him I was tired and not in the mood for another feelings lecture. He said this would be short. He asked if I understood how it looked to stand in a crowd of parents and talk about my ex like that, to laugh about regretting marriage, with our daughter in the same room. I shrugged and said people needed to hear the truth. I told him everyone was just jealous because I had options and they didn't. I said the jokes did not hurt him, his own insecurity did. I reminded him again that I chose him instead of going back to Luca, and that he should remember that before complaining. I said no one cared about one little affair or old feelings when the bills were paid and the kid was fine. He stared at me for a long second. Then he said something I did not like at all. He said, very quietly, that what I called jokes and one little affair were repeated humiliations and a pattern of betrayal. He said he had listened, given chances, and tried to fix things, but that I clearly did not want to change. He said he would handle it properly now. Those words hit me harder than any shout could. Handle it properly. It sounded like a plan. I laughed it off and asked if that meant another counseling session or some dramatic speech to his parents. I told him he never followed through on anything hard. He just looked at me and said he was done arguing in the middle of the living room. Then he walked to the hallway, picked up a suitcase, and took it into the guest room. For a second, I thought he was leaving. My heart tripped. Then I heard the zipper and the soft slide of papers. I peeked into the doorway later. He was not packing clothes. He was sorting documents into neat piles on the bed. One pile was labeled with Maya's name on a sticky note. Another had our bank information. He took photos of some papers with his phone, then slid them into a clear folder. Late that night, when the house finally settled, I heard a strange, low sound from the guest room, a humming, like a small machine. I walked down the hallway and saw light under the door. When I pushed it open a little, I saw a shredder on the floor, chewing up what looked like old envelopes and scraps. The laptop screen showed a progress bar and the words, "File uploaded successfully." Ethan sat there, back straight, eyes on the screen. I asked if he was doing our taxes in the middle of the night. He said he was just organizing and backing up important things. I joked that he was acting like a man about to die. He did not respond to the joke. He only said it was good to have everything in order, just in case. That phrase, just in case, made my skin prickle. I went to bed, annoyed. I told myself he was being dramatic and that nothing would come of it. Men always talk big when they feel hurt, but when it comes to real change, they freeze. Ethan needed our life too much to really leave it. That was what I believed. In the morning, the air felt sharp and too clear. Ethan was already dressed, wearing a shirt I had not seen in a while. His car keys were on the table. Maya's backpack and a small bag of her toys sat by the door, lined up. The car outside was parked facing the street, not the garage. He told me the plan for the day in a flat, practical voice. He would take Maya to school, then go to a meeting downtown, then pick her up again. I asked about the meeting. He said it was personal. I rolled my eyes and said he was full of secrets now, acting like some spy. He just said it was about sorting things out and left it at that. As he backed the car down the driveway with Maya in the back seat, my phone buzzed on the counter. I picked it up and saw a text from an unknown number. It asked me to confirm that I would be at home at 9 a.m. the next morning for delivery. I frowned and started to type a question back, but before I could finish, the doorbell rang and echoed through the quiet house. The doorbell did not stop. It rang again and again until it sounded angry. I checked the time. It was just after 9, so the text had not been spam. I walked to the door, half expecting a package, half ready to tell some salesperson to go away. A man in a plain jacket stood there with a folder. He asked my full name in a flat voice. I said it without thinking. He pressed the folder into my hands and said he was serving legal documents. He spoke the date and time like he was reading a receipt. Down the hallway, by the stairwell, Ethan stood with Patricia and Gerald. Maya held his hand. A neighbor came up the stairs and looked at all of us with open interest. I tried to give the folder back. The man said it was already done. He walked away. Ethan did not move toward me. He only said, in that same calm voice, that I should read everything carefully. I told him this was insane, that we could talk. He answered that we had talked, and now he was doing what was best for Maya. Then he left with his parents and our daughter. At the courthouse later, the lobby buzzed with voices. I clutched the folder. On top was a petition for divorce, requests for temporary custody, a list of financial orders. His lawyer read out simple facts. My public videos, my posts, bank charges, childcare schedules where he showed up and I did not. They had printouts, dates, even a short clip from the park where I said I regretted marrying him. It all looked so cold on paper. I said I was the one hurt, that I only cheated because I felt ignored and trapped. The judge barely looked at me. The focus stayed on Maya and the money. By the end of the short hearing, Ethan had temporary primary custody, the right to stay in the apartment with her, and orders for me to pay support and stop posting about him or the case. When we walked out into the bright plaza, Ethan took Maya's hand and stepped away with his parents. No one laughed now. I stood alone with the folder, staring at the black line on the first page that turned my whole life into a case name.